life, as a person, as an individual, to become someone's wife. For me, it's double because not only I become someone's wife, I also become a stepmother. And that's what I figured out very quickly in our relationship. That's, of course, your son is going to be a big part of this relationship. Looking at the child make me rethink about my experience myself as a children of my parents. And that helping me to overcome a lot of, perspective that I had in my mind about my own parents.
There is no book that really prepared you for being a parent. There is book that prepare you for parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is great book about parenting. There is great theoretical knowledge that you can have. But having this little human with you is not something you can be prepared.
Marriage is never about being the winner. Whatever happened, it's us against the problem.
Part of the freedom in the couple for me is that those discussions, hey, this is how I am, this is what I need for you. Would you please support me? And not, I'm expecting this from you. Why are you not doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Hey beautiful people, it's Vivien Roggero, and I want to thank you, and please thank yourself for being here. Before we go into this episode, I invite you to join this channel to hear more episodes that will help you create a more meaningful life full of freedom, purpose, and deep, true relationships. All I want you to do is click on the subscribe button. I love your support, and I can't wait to go on this journey of discovery with you. Thank you for subscribing. It means the world to me. So, looking at everything we said, we evolve, we are different. And you had a lot of journeys with me. We had the wedding, you have moved here in Taiwan with me.
Yeah.
And you became a stepmom.
Yeah.
And, well, we love our kid.
Mm-hmm.
Our kid loves us.
Yeah.
But that was not an easy path for you.
Mm.
There was a lot of questions about it,
yes.
a lot of trauma, a lot of pain. And at the end of the day, and this is me feeling it, but you can say after that, but I feel that being a stepmom made you much more free in the sense of you had less expectation about having kids and less worries about having them, and more finding what having kids love means for you.
Oh gosh. Generally, people, when they going into marriage, they would expect, okay, this is a new life, as a person, as an individual, to become someone's wife. For me, it's double because not only I become someone's wife, I also become a stepmother. And that's what I figured out very quickly in our relationship. That's, of course, your son is going to be a big part of this relationship. And for me, I always love a kid. How children always make me happy, and, they love me too. So it's not very difficult for me. But to position myself as someone's stepmother is very challenging because it's super terrifying. Let me tell you, it's more terrifying than become a wife. As a wife, you have this journey to become someone's partner. You may ask them, you may communicate with them, and then even you can have expectation, about them and about the relationship itself, but there is no such thing with a kid. You just be present, and you just feel them, and you just want to do the best for them. I already set the bar so high, even for myself, but it's not coming instantly. Even in our relationship, before we got engaged, we got married, I already read the book articles, blogs, seeing someone else doing it first about how to be stepmother, because that's not happened overnight. So when I first, oh, not so, but but when it happened, there's no article, there's no TikTok video, there's no Instagram content that will explain to you how it works, because apparently everything just going naturally. I think for me, it's to just trust my intuition and just wants to do the best for the children without thinking what would other things, what would, like, is it the best, like in society, in community, blah, 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 blah. I believe myself enough to put that aside. I think if I think about that along the way, not only I would make myself disappointed, but I also will screw up. So, I mean, to be a stepmother is one big step I didn't even ever imagined before, but I did. So far, so good now.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. And of course, but taking a responsibility as someone's stepmother, I even put, there's a certain things that I change about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to be perfect, which is I always did. I'm not trying to do what people expect me to do, but instead just doing my intuition, do whatever I would think the best that time. And the other effect that actually also surprised me is that looking at the child make me rethink about my experience myself as a children of my parents, and that helping me to overcome a lot of perspective that I had in my mind about my own parents and about how their parenting affect me as a human being, as an individual. So that's also somehow helping me shaping who I am today, to connect the past and the future together through the eyes, through the presence of your son. So it's very, to be honest, I want to say it's very rewarding journey.
Yeah, there is no book that really prepared you for being a parent. There is book that prepare you for parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is great book about parenting. There is great theoretical knowledge that you can have. But having this little human with you is not something you can be prepared. But as you said, it brought you actually a different version of yourself. And for me, it made me much more free in the sense that I had to be the best version of myself. And I had to evolve. But at the same time, he is not expecting anything more than love. He has no expectations. And I think that was the same for you. The first you were afraid about his expectation, then the more you had interacted with him, the less you were afraid about expectation, and the more you actually were able to be yourself around him and to love him the way you can. So I think on that way, that is the epiphany of freedom in a certain sense, because this is something that I want to open up. But when we started living together, there was some tension and clash.
Oh, yes.
Because you had expectation of me and I had expectation of you.
Yeah.
Which, let me tell you that, wrong thing to do. Don't have expectations. This is not how it will work. If you have expectation for the other period, forget it. Crash your expectation. Throw them away. this is not going to work well if you do that. So how did you go out from expectation to actually something else? And what is that something else?
In terms of expectation, I feel like we can put it aside, but I think it's still impossible not to have it at all, right? But what I believe is that putting it into other person to fulfill that expectation without able to clear communicate it, that's when you make a mistake. And that happened. That is actually what happened to us. It's very easy. It started with the garbage. When I think that's the peak of
The accumulation.
The conflict. Let's say that's the conflict what we have when we as a newlywed. When I have expectation because I don't understand, this is Taiwan and they have a particular way to throw the trash. You would do it, and you on your side is like, if I could do it, why I have to wait for you, right? I can do it myself. Like, I see that the trash is already full, even it's going out of the trash bin, etc. I should be able, and we not even communicate about that until it's too late and it becoming a conflict. But that's a awakening moment for me to be able to look at the journey as our problem, not put it against each other like it's your problem. I'm not wrong on this. Like, okay, I learned so fast that marriage is never about being the winner. Whatever happened, it's us against the problem, not me against you. And that's quickly turned into a very healthy state where I'm able to express myself to you. Like, I'm sorry I did this because I thought you would blah, 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 blah. So, and I'm able to ask you, what do you really want in the situation? And that coming into a solution, eventually, that's not that complex at all. But that make me stress at first. And then the expectation turned into, I think, more healthy communication way to put, what we want as a result. And that's what happened. So it's very important to feel safe enough to be able to express yourself, and then be mature enough to recognize what's the problem there, and able to look at yourself first before you're pointing fingers at others, I think.
I think that's an interesting part on that is communication. Okay, communication of everything is important, but non-communication is what kills couples so much. If you have expectation that are unfulfilled, 90% of the time you didn't communicate them. I can bet that today, because that's statistic. And if you want to have a freedom in a couple and to have this, values shared and this growth together, that means you have to communicate. And you have a pet peeve about food in the sink, for example, and you're like, you can't touch it. There's food in the sink. No. You can't touch it. So I have to take care of it. And at first you will leave that for a couple of hours without saying anything, expecting me to do something. And no, you just, hey, can you please? And I just do it. And for me, I don't care. I do it. It's just take me a second. But for you, it's a big thing. And during that conflict time, that was one of the big things that's added, like, oh, there is food in the sink. Because just after eating, we put the thing to, before we put in the washing machine and clean and everything. And so small things are easily fixable become big thing. And I think part of the freedom in the couple for me is that those discussions, hey, this is how I am, this is what I need for you, would you please support me? And not, I'm expecting this from you, why are you not doing it? Because then you're not free. You're basically putting a weight onto yourself, you're putting a weight on the other person, you're restricting. But as you said, when you go and you say, hey, this is what I need for you, please support me, then you're empowering the other person to actually be better in the couple. You're empowering the other person to help you and go through that change. And God, we know it's not always easy.
No.
And there is things that you wish I would do, and I'm like, nope, that's never gonna happen. And there is things that I wish you would do, and you say, nope, that's never gonna happen. And that is fine too. That is fine too. I think that's what's really matter is this. How would I say that the best way? But this ability to adapt. And this is a big factor for me of success and freedom in a couple is your ability to adapt, your ability to empathize with someone. Empathy is a big thing in a couple. If you have no empathy for the other person, why are you even with that person? Like, you have to have empathy. It's not one life and another life. As much as, yes, it is not only that. It is one life, another life, and a life together. And sometimes smaller lives that go from that. So it's a lot of different things. And it's, and for me, and for you also, I'll, for example, my son, is one of our freedom. But living here in Taiwan is also one of our freedom. Even if it's a big challenge because I speak Mandarin to a really basic level. You don't at all. We can't read it. We can't write it. We still make it work. We still live here and make it work. Like, let's be honest. But for us, it's still freedom. We have our house.
Yeah.
We have a pretty decent life. The quality of life in Taiwan is great. And yes, there is some weird things like the trash. But those are small adaptations. Those are such a small thing. If you look at the big scale of a life, it's such a small thing. And I think for me, what I've seen is a lot of couples. They attach themselves to that small things and say, that's restricting me. Because they think, and that's my take, and I want to hear your take on that later, is they think that freedom is being free in everything you want. Everything you want. Everything you do, you need to be free and feel free. And I do not think you can consciously do that because there is so much in life you have to take care. You have to pay your bills, you have to pay your taxes, you have to pay, if you have kids, you have to take care of your kids, you have your health, you have your house, you have your job. All of those things have restrictions to it. And even if you look at this vision of freedom that I see on Instagram that make me cringe, it's like those people like, I'm going to do remote working and work in Bali. Well, I have been in Bali. I know what Balis mean. I have been there. Trust me, this is not what people think. It is not that freedom paradise, okay? And a lot of people that I know that lived in Bali have gone out of Bali. They're not living in Bali anymore. There is a reason for that. So freedom for me is more conscious. It's more about which area of my life are important and make me feel free. For us, my son, you, being a coach, those are 3 areas of my life that make me feel free. There is other areas of my life that make me more restricted. At the same time, my son is also a restriction. We didn't speak about that, but the reason why we're in Taiwan is to be close to my son. We may be in a different country otherwise. So what's your take on all of that?
Well, I come into, how to say it, but I used to think the world need to be in certain way. You know, when we read the news that is obviously upsetting, it's not perfect. And it also took process for me to stop being frustrated over it, because I used to be very angry at so many things, like why people do this, why people do that, how could they not do this, do that. But I realized that chaos is coming from myself, from my inner self, that have a huge expectation towards the things that I want to bring into this world. And then it's becoming, over time, it's becoming lesser, the noise is becoming lesser and lesser and lesser, to see the world as what I want, but to see the world the way it is. And I learned that, you know what, we can't control the world. We can't control anything but ourselves. That's when I start to think it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter in terms of the way it affects me. I still have power to perceive what it means to me, including about the freedom that you mentioned before. So, of course, the world has its own restriction. Life could not be exactly what we want it to be. There's certain, way of how people living, because we need to share life with everybody else. If that coming without any restriction, it will be chaos, like you mentioned. Totally chaos. So for me, the takeaway is that as long as you know where you stand at for yourself, you will be able to reach the level of freedom that you want. But again, to be able to recognize yourself is already a skill. And that's not coming overnight, for sure. So when you are with someone, there's a verse in Bible about this, about the how to say it in English. Wait, I need to translate in my mind, but like sharp.
Iron sharpen iron.
Yeah, iron sharp iron. Thank you. That, and the only way to going to be better yourself is to connect to others. And marriage is the whole school of life for that. When you spend every single second of your life, share it with someone. And obviously because we both live working from home, we see each other even more often, So we better like each other. But it's also the way to be able to even recognize yourself better. So going forward, it's really matter to find your ground.
Hey, as we come to the end of our time together today, I want to thank you for joining in from the bottom of my heart. And I also want to remind you that you're not walking this path alone. I am Vivien Roggero, and I'm inviting you to join our community by subscribing to the One Freedom Formula podcast. Every click, share, and comment weave us closer together. So be part of this family. Share your journey in the comment and let us grow together. Until we meet again, continue to seek, learn, and connect.